An article emblazons the front page of the Gateway Advertiser. The headline is Pentex to Future-Proof Infrastructure. G-Town is to discard coal for good as infrastructure based on a new, cleaner energy source comes online this week, Pentex Energy has announced. After 13 months of testing and development, an extension to the city's power grid powered by the corporation's new Soul Saver technology will begin operating at full capacity this week. In addition, a number of businesses and private residences across the city are to be fitted with special Soul Saver boxes to make use of the new infrastructure. Pentex claims the box will increase output by up to 50% while also reducing operating costs. This technology will ensure G-Town's energy needs are met for decades to come without causing irreparable harm to the environment, said Pentex CEO Elliot Dawkins in a press release. Right now, you can opt into SoulSaver for a single upfront fee that will save you thousands on your electricity bills in the long run. Mr. Dawkins also announced that Pentex has committed to an eventual phasing out of fossil fuels as more of the city gradually adopts the new technology. The SoulSaver box will set customers back $300 for a one-time installation fee. Pentex claims that as many as 2,000 clients have already opted in. The uptick in business represents a turning point for Pentex's operations in the Gateway region, which were vehemently opposed by the public just months ago. The platform in Cowes Bay proved to be an essential piece of our new system and infrastructure, despite public opinion, Mr. Dawkins said. However, some have levelled criticisms against the CEO, stating that the function of the platform and the nature of SoulSaver itself remains unclear. And now, onto the downtime one-on-one session, where Tig grapples with some tough questions. Tig. The day sleep is most of the time oblivion. Impenetrable darkness in which your consciousness is locked until the sun slinks beneath the horizon and the gelid blood within your body begins to stir and animate you. In your decades of unlife, this has been a pretty consistent, natural routine. You retire to the special, boarded-up room at the back of your homestead, collapse into bed just as the first rays of sunlight appear, and sleep like a baby until the night. It'd be stupid for anyone to try to place you in danger during the daylight hours. Your haven is a farmstead in the middle of nowhere, where your cadre of guards dressed as farmhands would see anyone approaching a mile away, and as if that wasn't bad enough, Tig's family share the household, and that means that the unassuming little farmhouse is actually a nest of ghouls, gangrel ghouls that know how to take a hit, can punch pretty hard in their own right, and have a strange affinity with animals. And yet today, someone makes the attempt. You're vaguely aware of a woman's scream somewhere beyond the black maelstrom, the sound of a crash and breaking glass, and suddenly you realize that you're in danger, and you will yourself to awaken. So go ahead for me and roll your humanity, and you may add your haven as additional dots.
Well, alright then. Waking me up. I was never good at mornings before I died. Alright, humanity is 7.
You have a good
Haven
chance
rating
of
is
being
9.
awake.
That's 5 successes.
5 successes. Well, the difficulty was 4, so you made it. You see, you're not in immediate danger. Well, you're not in immediate danger, but as your eyes flicker open, as the blood animates and you sit bolt upright, casting the bedclothes away, you stare around the room. It's clear to you that probably the middle of the afternoon. There are thick plywood boards nailed on the walls of the master bedroom, but there are a couple rays of grey light filtering in, dancing on the surface of the desk against the wall and on the concrete itself. Nothing that would worry you, but for you to be awoken at this time, you instinctively understand that something is wrong. You're all ready to defend yourself as you scramble out of bed, clench your fists, and look around waiting for the assailant to jump on you, but they never do. In fact, your bedroom seems to be relatively undisturbed, quiet. The door to the rest of the house is shut. Then you hear it again. That terrified woman's scream, a female voice calling help.
That's Elaine.
That's Elaine. She's the one in danger.
Shotgun comes out. House is mostly sealed, but there's no telling what holes they got in it, so Defy Bane is going up. I'm gonna roll for that. Have I had time to heal since the last time?
You sure have, and for the purposes of this downtime session, you were at Hunger 1, and any hunger you gain will carry over to the next proper session, but you will have a chance to make use of your herd at the end of this session and reduce any hunger you gain.
Good deal. Well, Defy Bane is up. No cost. We'll also kick in toughness. No cost. Oh, Tig is mad.
Tig is mad. Someone's made a very bad decision.
As he opens the door, we'll call the cattle. The pen nearest the house to pretty much step over the gate. Step over the low-slung fence, and not rushing, but they'll start making their way toward the house, looking like they're slightly panicked. That's the instructions he'll give them with fair whispers, and again he succeeds. Holy crap.
Succeeds, yeah. Well, this is good. He's running on pure adrenaline, it seems.
Oh, he is mad. We'll go ahead and roll.
Go ahead.
That's 2 successes to get him moving. Should be enough.
So Tig can't see it from here, but if he was foolish enough to rip down one of those plywood boards and peer out the window, he would now see the cows sort of starting to lazily converge on the low-slung gate of the paddock and start to nudge it open, start to stroll across the farmyard towards the house, not looking like they're making a particularly urgent rush of it, just slowly, cautiously making their way across. Enough that if anyone saw it, they'd maybe be a little unnerved, but wouldn't register it as an immediate threat.
They'll be expecting the dogs. Probably won't be expecting the steer. Shotgun gets loaded with slugs, and he goes through the door.
And as you move towards the door, I'd like you to make a wits awareness check for me.
We'll boost this. He's on edge, his senses pumping. And that's one of my good ones, so that'll be 7 dice. Only 2 successes, though.
As you move towards the door, you hear a voice ringing out from somewhere beyond the wall, somewhere outside in the farmyard. Over there! And gunshots begin to ring out. One crack, bang! And then another, bang! And they sound like the 22 rifles that your farmhands have been instructed to keep in easy, nearby easy accessible locations for just this situation. Your guards have already launched their defense.
We've already got feral whispers going. I'll send an order to the dogs to start becoming agitated, just so it doesn't look as bad when they eventually use them for something. Only one success, but then I mean it. I'm just trying to get them to act.
Yeah, you're trying to rouse. You're trying to rouse them, agitate them, and sure enough, you hear from outside, bark, 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 and another gunshot rings out, and perhaps all of this cacophony is enough to unsettle someone. You hear shuffling on the other side of your door and a low voice going, "Shit, I think all the farm animals, and we knew the farmhands, we knew there was something about them, but, well, fuck, look,
they're right on the other side of the door?
At least one person is. Probably
awesome.
two.
Tig's gonna raise his strength, punch through the door, and drag him into the room.
They'll keep him distracted. We just gotta find him and stake him, you understand? And crash! Go ahead for me and make a strength brawl check.
Hey, does bar fighting apply to this?
I'd say it does. He's rocketing through a door.
Messy critical 6, and that's okay with me.
Messy critical 6. I'm gonna give the person on the other side a penalty dice. 4 successes from them, but your messy crit is much higher. So, the door is smashed to splinters immediately as you charge through it, and the splinters rain down on the unfortunate soul on the other side. In his left hand, he's grasping a walkie-talkie, and it's through that he's communicating with whoever he's working with. In his right hand, he's leaning a sleek-looking hunting crossbow against his shoulder, and he's dressed in army surplus camouflage and is wearing a black balaclava. You instantly clock him for what he is, a hunter, and as he hears the crash, he whirls around, raises his crossbow, but he doesn't even have a chance to tighten his finger on the trigger before you're on him, and the beast roars, "How dare you, Elaine and Wallace, how dare you put them in danger, how dare you!" You're consumed in a red haze as the rage takes over, and you're vaguely aware of the sound of crunching bones, of flesh being torn and broken. Mere seconds later, your faculties return, and the poor hunter lies dead at your feet, his arms both jutting out in angles they never were meant to, and his neck broken, blade 90 degrees to the left.
Tig scoops up the walkie-talkie as he keeps moving, growls into it. "One!" Throws it aside and keeps going toward where he thought he heard Elaine scream.
So, the problem with your messy crit is that as you were ravaging this guy, tearing him limb to limb, you weren't particularly paying mind to efficiency, and what seemed like a few seconds to you in reality took about 30-40 seconds. Enough time for whoever was on the other end of the walkie-talkie to recognize that you were awake and you were angry. And when you bark through the walkie-talkie, "One!" the person on the other end has already dropped off the channel and don't hear you.
That's fine. Tig's moving. He has no time to waste now.
Heading towards where Elaine screamed. You step out into the hallway outside your bedroom, and without being able to see directly where Elaine is, you're going entirely on where you think the sound came from in your half-groggy, half-awakened state at the time, and your intimate knowledge of the layout of the house, and based on where it came from... Go ahead.
He's dragging the body behind him, for the record.
Dragging the body behind him, the broken body, and as you drag it along the floorboards in the hallway, it leaves a trail of blood and some shards of bone. There are two possible options where the scream could have come from. Elaine's usually in the kitchen during the day, sitting down, doing the crossword while she waits for the stock pot to boil for dinner. Either that, or she was in the laundry on the opposite end of the house. All you know is that the scream came from somewhere far away. You weren't quite awake enough to determine whether it came from the left or the right, but those two options seem as good as any.
Is it laundry day? Fuck, she keeps track of that. Oh, don't. Kitchen's closer, right?
Kitchen would be closer.
Kitchen.
Dragging the body behind you, you hurry
It's
down
up on his
the
shoulder
hallway.
at this point.
Up on his shoulder, making your way down the hallway, and on the way, you come by Wallace's bedroom. It's there on the right of the hallway. The door is wide open, still swinging, still creaking as if it was violently flung open. As you pass by, you peek into Wallace's bedroom. He's not there. And you don't dare peek in very far because the window to his bedroom is wide open. Late afternoon sunlight filtering in, illuminating the whole room. But you notice that the glass of his window is broken and there are specks of blood on the broken edges. There's no sign of Wallace himself though, and no sign of any hunters.
Alright.
Continue on, and soon you come to the end of the hallway. This is the living room where the family sits down, watches TV, and shoots the shit, and just beyond this is the kitchen. Fairly easy to get to, but here's the problem. It's the middle of the day, Elaine wasn't expecting trouble, and Tig's family aren't afraid of the sunlight. So the bay window of the lounge room that looks out onto the farmyard outside, the curtains are wide open and bright sunlight fills the lounge room, painting a big glowing square between you and the kitchen.
And this is why he brought the body. Tig works his hand into the back of the clothes, grabs him like a shield, and keeps it between him and the bay window as he runs for the door.
Runs for it as fast as he can, very well. So you're using the body as cover, so I'll give you a bonus die. Go ahead and make a Dex Athletics check for me.
Let's boost that, shall we? Oh, now he gets hungry. Well, that's fine. Can't really object. It's been a good run so far. Let's see if the dice keep that up. 3 successes.
3 successes. As you move through the lounge room, yet more gunshots ring out from outside. There! Behind the van! Get him! Go, go, go! Bang! Bang! You're pretty sure that's your guardsmen, and they're doing the job you paid them, and that buys you a slight sense of relief as you shoulder the body as a shield and make your way across the lounge room, and instantly your beast begins to recoil. You're running on adrenaline though, and it's easy enough to force the beast into the back of your mind, to strain against it even as it tells you to stop and turn and flee. Flee like a scared puppy. Get out of here. Get to somewhere safe. Away from the sunlight, away from your bane. How many successes did you get again?
3.
3. So the difficulty was 4, and the body you holding over you as a shield bears the brunt of it, but this is a big window and it's a big lounge room, and you feel the tips of your fingers and your shoulders begin to burn, the parts that are exposed as the sunlight does its work. You smell smoke and see a plume of grey beginning to emanate from under your collar as your skin breaks out in agony, and you take 2 points of aggravated damage, but I believe this is reduced to superficial because of Defy Bane.
Which is reduced to nothing thanks to
Which is
toughness.
reduced to nothing thanks to toughness.
Fortitude, kids. It's boring, but it's a solid buy.
The beast
All that's running through Tig's mind right now is, oh, Elaine will get on me. She hates it when I smoke.
Yeah. And as you make your way finally, mercifully out of this square of searing light, a single piece of ash just drops off your body, lands on the carpet. You realise Elaine will probably have something to say about that and who's going to be tasked with cleaning it later on, but for now you've made it through. You make your way towards the archway that leads to the kitchen, and the first thing you see, yet again, is the kitchen windows wide open, curtains drawn, and more sunlight flooding in, illuminating the kitchen table, making it seem to glow, seeming to emanate bright white light that almost blinds you to look at it. The back door, the door that leads out onto the back patio, is wide open, and you can see a man, his back turned to you, standing in the frame of the doorway. As you watch, he's raising his crossbow, raising it to eye level and taking aim at something outside.
All right. I think I'm going to kick him in the base of the spine and try to shatter it.
Sure thing. You going to be careful not to run through the brightly lit parts of the room, stick to the shadows, or are you just hoping to Defy Bane with magic? Charges straight in. All right.
If he's aiming at Elaine, I don't have time to. Yeah. This is.
Go ahead, make me another strength brawl.
Any bonus for coming in behind, or is the DC lower?
I'll lower the difficulty.
All right. Well, that's a critical 9, so...
Critical 9 to a difficulty of 4? You charge through the kitchen, vaulting over the table, sweeping away a stack of Elaine's magazines. Another mess she'll have you hear about later, but nothing that matters now as you charge towards the man, and just as he tightens his finger on the trigger, you're up behind him. This time, the beast is held barely at bay. It's rattling at the bars of its cage. You feel your rib bones vibrate, shaking as if the beast is grabbing them and trying to force them away, trying to burst out of your body, but you manage to hold it just far enough back that as you approach this man and clench your fist, you're able to decide what you want to do to him.
Alright, let's knock him out then.
Knock him out, swift fist to the back of the head.
Yep.
And so you move up, clench your fist, and thwack! It comes down on the back of his skull. You hear him gasp, and then he falls forward, sprawling through the door onto the back patio, out into the bright sunlight. Once again, as soon as he's down, you're vaguely aware of your skin burning, the agony taking hold, and this time you take another 2 points of aggravated damage that once again gets reduced to superficial.
Actually, one of them does not. One of them gets through. My Defy Bane is for the scene, and this is the same scene, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
as you watch him roll through the door, you're jolted back to reality as your entire body is engulfed in agony. You feel your skin beginning to twist and roil, and your beast absolutely screams. It's no longer legible, just a long, terrified roar as it seemingly feels the pain itself.
Alright. Well, I'm burning. Do I have a chance to look out into the yard and see what's going on there?
Your game. I will ask you to go ahead, roll me a resolve plus composure plus a third of your humanity to do so.
Yeah, well, I've already eaten the damage. I might as well give it a shot. I get the lucky dice. Resolve plus so, hey, 9 dice. We'll see how this goes. 6 successes.
6 successes. Your beast protests every inch you make towards the door. No! No!
Lower the hat, shield my eyes, and kind of peer out over them.
Gritting your teeth, soldering on through the pain, you peer out onto the patio, and over the sprawled body of the hunter, you see a scene of pure chaos. There's 3 more hunters that you could see. They're green camo, ironically making them very, very visible in the paddock filled with yellow, dead grass. They're all taking cover behind the burnt-out husk of a car, raising their crossbows, exchanging shots at the farmhands who are firing upon them from the sheep shearing shed. They look like they've been putting up a fair fight until suddenly one of them screams. The 3 of them whirl around just in time to see 4 cows charging straight towards them, the stampede gaining momentum. They're pretty much done for. Before your beast finally takes control and wills you to pull your head back in, you glance to the other side of the farmyard, and there you see the thing that you came here for, the thing that you hoped to see. It's Elaine, barefoot, running across the farmyard, her summer dress on this unusually warm winter day. Chalk that up to climate change. Flying like a flag in the wind as she runs away from another hunter. He raises his crossbow, aims at her back, and begins to tighten his finger on the trigger.
Well, this is why I loaded the shotgun with slugs.
You raise your own weapon and fire. Go ahead, make me a composure plus firearms check.
I'm shooting a guy in the back, and that's perfectly okay with me. And I am going to willpower that to both failure. And 3 successes should do it.
3 successes? 3 successes does it. You raise your shotgun, and as he aims at your wife's back, you aim at his. You pull the trigger, and bang! He screams in pain. Blood spurts out as the buckshot tears through his camo, and he falls to the ground.
Yeah.
As the slug tears through his clothing. He goes down to the ground, still alive, but only barely. Elaine stops for just a moment, looks over her shoulder, and as she sees you standing in the doorway, your face red, your teeth bared in pain, she opens
Steam
her
rolling
mouth.
up from my burning face.
Steam rolling up from your burning face. She opens her mouth to scream first at you to get back inside, and then, behind you! She screams.
Kick hits the dirt.
Got you now, bloodsucker, comes a voice from behind as you hit the dirt, just as a hunter bursts out of the walk-in pantry, a rail spike clutched in his right hand. And he lunges towards you, ready to bury it into your chest. But before you defend yourself, I'd like you to go ahead and roll 3 dice for me.
Sure. 1 success.
1 success. As he grins, as the smile grows wider on his face, and he raises the rail spike, ready to drive it in as your beast begins to take control, as it begins to roar, and you feebly roll back across the doorway into the shadowy corner of the kitchen. Another gunshot rings out. The man grows a third eye and tumbles forwards as, from the direction of the lounge room, a friendly face reveals herself. A friendly face with silver hair, wearing a leather biker's jacket. Lucky smiles at you, the wrinkles deep on her face.
Just say, Wallace, you got my son, maybe. Well, you seen Wallace?
Made a break for the shearing shed, she says.
All right.
Guy chased him in there, but that son of yours may not look it, but he knows how to throw a punch. I watched he picked up one of the collapsible chairs you got in there, brought it over the back of the guy's head, sent him sprawling out cold.
He fucking John Cena'd him. How
As
many
you
more left?
1 more, she says, as she screws up her face, whirls around, raises her gun just as a gunshot peals out from the lounge room. There's a cacophony of breaking glass as the last hunter, the one who's very obviously the leader, one dressed not in camo but in a form-fitting business suit, replete with a Pentex logo on the lapel, steps through. His rifle smokes as the gunshot rings through the lounge room, and Lucky's fortitude eats the majority of the damage as the bullet slams into the back of her neck, rather than putting her down as the hunter intended. It simply seems to anger her. She looks over at you, winks, and then raises her gun. What do you do?
Well, I've got another barrel of the shotgun now, don't I?
So go ahead, make a composure plus firearms, and
Boosting
Lucky
composure,
readies
getting
her own gun.
hungrier. It's gonna be like that Pulp Fiction. Hopefully. X. 4 successes, and we'll try willpowering that just to make sure everything goes smooth. 5 successes, we'll call that good.
5 successes. So this guy's going to defend against Lucky first. He rolls 5 successes against Lucky's 2. She may not have been instantly destroyed by that bullet sliding into the back of her neck, but she's definitely woozy. Throws her aim off. She's pale, losing blood, and as her own gunshot peels off, it misses. The bullet slams into the plaster wall, kicks up a cloud of white dust.
If he can, Tig will put himself slightly ahead of her, make himself more of a target.
Make himself more of a target. As he steps forwards, raises his gun, and empties the other barrel. The Pentex guard has a penalty to defend on Tig's roll, and he only rolls 4 successes. You feel the shotgun's kick as it goes off, and the slug slams into the man's chest, painting his immaculate suit red. He screams in pain as he goes down, and as he rides on the floor, Lucky lowers her handgun to his head and finishes him off. Instantly, all is silent. A couple more gunshots ring out from outside, and then The threat is over.
Thank you. Tig says, I owe you. Sit down, you're losing. Oh, that's distracting. You're losing blood.
Never mind me, says Lucky through gritted teeth, and before she sits down, she rushes at you, charging at you, slamming her elbows into your chest, pushing you out of the lounge room and once more back into the shadowed hallway. Just as the sun peeks out from behind a cloud, streams through the broken bay window and engulfs the lounge room. You feel your beast sigh in relief, and then your blood begins to settle, begins to grow gelid once again. You find yourself stumbling as you make your way down the hallway, and you barely reach the doorway of your bedroom before you feel the day sleep bearing down upon you once more. You have just about enough energy to do one last thing before you completely succumb.
And that'll be to tell the ghoul hounds to protect the family. And
Go ahead.
Lucky's... Protect the family. Lucky wouldn't threaten them. No. That should be safe. 4 successes.
4 successes. You hear dogs barking somewhere outside, and then the blackness seems to speed up like a subway train, and it feels like one as it hits you, knocking you off your feet. You fall to the floorboards and land in the fresh blood with a thud, and all goes black. Go ahead and make a rouse check for me as you awaken at your usual time.
Success! Still at 3 hunger.
The first thing you're aware of is the sound of someone whimpering in a nearby room. The sound of a chair, wood scraping on a tiled floor. And Lucky's voice, cold as ice. You make another move, and I'll put one in your other kneecap. We clear? Your eyes flutter open as the blood once again animates you. The sun has gone down. The entire house is bathed in darkness. The only source of light being the lounge room, lit now not by the sunlight, but by the ornate lamp on the coffee table in the center of the room. You could see Elaine sitting on the sofa, her face buried in her hands as Wallace sits next to her, patting her on the shoulder.
Tig moves to them, shaking, reaches out to them and pulls them both close to his broad chest.
Lane buries her face in your shoulder, softly sobbing. And then Wallace...
tears are rolling down his face, his jarred face, dripping on them.
Wallace, to his credit, doesn't cry, but you can see that his cheeks are damp when he finally releases the two of you. And then your son and your wife stare back at you, speechless. Why? Says Wallace. Why? Why did they come? Why today? Why now?
That's what I'm going to find out.
You knocked one of them out. That old lady, Lucky, she took him into the laundry. She's tied him to a chair and...
Yeah, that seems he's going to give me some answers. But right now I need to go and have a tuck of the steer, or I'm likely to do something horrible to him. Fuck, I might anyway. Listen, you take care of your mum, alright? I'll be back.
Wallace nods, and as you rise from the chair...
Son,
go ahead.
You done me proud.
He seems to not acknowledge this, at least he doesn't say anything. But as you rise from the chair and stride past him, you're pretty sure you can see a smile on his face. As you're about to step out of the room, finally Elaine speaks. They were after me. Tig, they were after
What?
me. They said, grab her, get her in the van, get her out of here.
Tig grabs the door frame and his fingers crunch into it. His face pops a bit and twists and begins to flatten. Nubs start to grow on his forehead. And he clenches his teeth, and they recede. But for a minute, he looked positively bovine.
Why would they want me? She says, and
I'll
lets
need
out
to
another
feed.
sob.
And then we'll get this sorted. Sit tight. Rest is over.
Green door slams
For us.
as you make your way out into the darkness. And before you access your herd, I'll ask you, would you like to make the 3 rouse checks necessary to heal that point of aggravated damage you took?
Yes, I think so, because Tig is going to be charging toward the herd, losing a few clothes as he goes. So, because this is going to be a bloody miss, and he goes up to Funger beyond 5, straight into Frenzy. And for the first time, we see Tig in his full glory. As his body thickens, his fingers seem to almost shrink back, hard keratin forms all along his forearms and hands, and multiple jagged horns burst from his brow. As his face grows an elongated muzzle, he looks like a monstrous devil steer.
First of all, let's reduce your charisma by your Bane severity. As your clan Bane kicks in. As the horns sprout and the skin turns hard and chitinous and bestial.
Important parts.
The second thing I'll ask is, how many dots of herd do you have?
Yeah, probably going to be less in a second here. 2.
2. Go ahead and remove one of those dots.
Yep.
The good news is that because you're frenzying and you're not particularly concerned with preserving your herd, you manage to reduce your hunger down to 1. The bad news is at least half of your flock give their lives to satiate the hunger. Fear marks the cows' eyes and they desperately try to flee, rushing towards the fence of the paddock in vain as Tig chases them down, faster, more ferocious, sinking his teeth in, his teeth tearing through the leather, tearing through their flesh, ripping the flesh from the bones and taking what his beast demands.
This is what they're here for.
You breathe deeply, standing on the edge of the paddock. At least 5, 6 cows lying dead, broken in the grass, the remainder of them cowering in the corner, as far away from you as they can muster, and as you raise your head to look at them, they cower back even further.
The Minotaur-like thing considers them for a minute. Then it heads over to the barn and grabs a slaughtering axe. And dragging it behind it, goes into the house, avoiding the room with his family, and heading to where Lucky has the prisoner, dragging the axe on the boards.
The axe grinds on the boards. A long, slow grind. And the whimpers from behind the laundry door get louder, increase in frequency as you get closer. You reach out and push the door open. and step in, dragging the axe behind you. The man you knocked out sits in the middle of the laundry room, tied with thick rope to a kitchen chair. His camouflage has been stripped away. He's nude almost entirely, save for a pair of bright blue boxer shorts. His bare chest already pockmarked with bruises, cuts, and what look like cigarette burns. Behind him, Lucky leans against the washing machine, her arms folded. She smiles as you enter the room. Figured we'd be seeing you within a couple minutes.
Glowing red eyes of the beast consider her, then look to the man.
I softened him up for you, says Lucky. But, you know, I ain't a bloodsucker. Don't exactly know what to ask him. Got him to spill that, him and his crew, well, they're part of a group of upstarts, right? Don't have much respect for the old ways. See, number one rule for me and mine is you don't do work for the corpse. You don't do work for the professional hunter orgs, the pros, as they call themselves. We ain't the Second Inquisition. We're doing this. We're a more grassroots thing. We're doing this because we care about the community, right? So when I heard someone from Pentex is putting feelers out about a possible job, professional move against the bloodsuckers in the city, against one specific bloodsucker, did what I can to dissuade my own. But this Cumstain thought he was too good for that. Thought Pentex's money was worth selling out his own and going against the principles that have kept our hunter cells running smoothly, running as a team, getting shit done for decades now.
So while she's been speaking this speech, Tig has thunked the head of the axe pretty much on the floor in front of the man and knelt down, bringing his face very close to him, beef blood dripping from his jaws, sprinkling the guy. As he reaches out with one hand, takes his face, and moves it so he can't stare anywhere but into Tig's eyes.
Go ahead, says Lucky. Get what you need out of him, and then I'll finish up with him. He stares back at you, somehow defiant after everything he's been through. And despite having a literal monster staring into his eyes, he just grits his teeth and shakes his head. I told her everything I know. There's nothing else. Ain't getting anything else out of me.
I'm not going to yell as loudly as Tig is yelling right now. But it's a bellow of rage.
Go ahead. As you bellow, make me a resolve plus intimidation check. You may add dice equal to your bane severity, if you like. After all,
6, 7.
You're a monster right now.
And Eyes of the Beast makes it 9. Five successes.
5 successes?
Yeah, did I regain willpower after the day sleep, or is this the same kind of...
You're still down. You will get more. You'll get recover by next session, though.
Alright, cool. We'll go ahead and up those number of successes then. By spending willpower. Yeah, we'll make it an even 8.
Even 8? He rolls 5 successes, the max allowed by his dice pool. But it's not enough. He folds instantly, the defiant look on his face crumbles, his bottom lip trembles, and his mouth drops open. Please, please, he says, it was just a job, nothing personal. We just had to get the woman, we had to get her out of here, and that was it.
For who?
Some guy working for Pentex, big shot, executive, goes by the name of. He thinks for a moment, honestly, desperately trying to rack his brain. Bergman!
Bergman. Has Tig heard that name before?
Indeed you have. Bergman would be the executive who is not a ghoul, but still a retainer to Elliot Dawkins, the one whose memory was fractured by domination, the one who required the services of Carl Cryer. He told us, he said, if we go during the day, there won't be a problem, that the gangrel wouldn't be awake, and all we had to do was get the girl, get her out of here, get her in the van, and bring her to the drop-off point. And then we'd be paid. Sent one of his own guys to supervise, make sure we were snatching the right person. It was meant to go smoothly. It was meant to be simple, but the farmhands saw us coming. They started firing on us before we were even out of the van, and then the animals. What the fuck kind of den of monsters did we rush into?
Mine!
He just nods, silently nodding furiously. I swear we didn't know. We did not know.
Tig stands. Looks at the axe, looks at him, looks at the axe, looks at him. His arm trembles for a long moment. Then he casts it aside. Looks to Lucky. I'll take him. If he stays here, I'm going to break a lot of promises. Take him and do what you have to.
Lucky just nods solemnly as she peers down at him through narrowed eyes. There are rules in the hunter cells, she says. Never sell out your own. And considering he went against a direct order to take that job, I think he's broken that rule, and I think he knows what's coming, she says as she takes a step forwards, as she reaches for the axe that you dropped on the ground and begins to raise it. And as you turn your back, as you're about to leave the room, suddenly, a ringtone begins to emanate. Emanating from the pile of camo crumpled in the corner of the room.
Get it, will you? Hard to talk.
Lucky nods. Axe still in hand, she makes her way to the man's clothes and fishes out not a smartphone, an old-fashioned Nokia 3200, the screen lit up.
Yeah. Tig puts his hand over the guy's mouth as she answers it.
She peers over his shoulders at you. Loudspeaker?
Tig nods.
She presses a button and then there's a beep. And as she holds the phone aloft, a voice you've never heard, but a voice that you instantly think you recognize, fills the room. Night's fallen. Do you have her, Elaine Duncern? Why are you not at the drop-off point?
Hello, Mr. Bergman.
Mr. Duncern. Tig Duncern.
You fucked up.
No. Correction. The people we hired fucked up.
I'll be. Unless you have something to say. I'll be in touch. Soon.
There's a sound on the other end of the phone. There's a strange sound. Sort of sound, a rustling, as if the phone is being violently wrenched out of Bergman's hands. And then, another voice greets you. Mr. Duncern, this is Mr. Dawkins of Pentex Corporation. I'd like to extend my apologies for the stress we've put you and your family through tonight.
Why? Leverage? Was that it?
I requested Mr. Bergman get some people together that we might try to coax Elaine away. It was not supposed to be an attack, not on your haven. There was not supposed to be violence. They were supposed to snatch her while she was out on the street doing her daily errands, but as you can see, the people Bergman hired were a bit overzealous. The man that I put in charge of it perhaps didn't understand the brief.
Words! My wife is dead and you offer me words!
Well, her being dead, possibly, is the crux of the matter, Mr. Duncern. Please, calm yourself a moment. I understand that this is all very frustrating, but really, it was for Elaine's own good.
Dick grabs the phone and breaks it. It's Nokia, so he has to try hard.
Yeah, has to smash it against the wall once, twice, and then on the third time, the screen cracks, and then you throw it to the ground and smash it underfoot. Lucky frowns. Dawkins. That's the CEO for Pentex, right?
He's another one of us.
Makes sense, she says. So, any idea why he'd want Elaine?
Wanted. Hostage.
I'm sorry, she says, shaking her head. Look, I'll admit, I don't really know anything about your bloodsucker politics, but taking her as a hostage, her and not you? Why would he do that?
Could be 'cause I'm an anarch, too, and it'd piss off Sire. Could be because me coterie been sniffing around him, and he wanted something to quietly get me on his side when we got close. Could be that we made common cause with one of his enemies, because he's big on Pentex, and the werewolf I run into don't like Pentex.
But
Could be Andrea told him to. But here's what I ain't sharp enough to figure it out. I ain't sharp enough to bandy words with a Ventru and expect to come out on top. Not when I'm full of the beast. But what I do know is, I bought a little time where he thinks Elaine is dead. And he'll be very eager to talk to me coterie. when they contact him and ask for a way to resolve things without me killing him.
Not. Tig's a gangrel. He doesn't have Auspex, but if he was one of the clans of that gift, and he had premonition, if he closed his eyes, he'd probably see Elliot Dawkins right now, slamming his fist into the side of a black Mercedes-Benz in rage, gritting his teeth. Dead! Dead! Now nobody will embrace her!
I've got a few nights to get this sorted before he figures out I lied to him.
So what are we gonna do? Says Lucky. If he wanted Elaine specifically... Look, like I said, I don't know much about the politics, this Cam and Anarch shit. Seen those terms bandied about, but they don't really mean anything to me. My experience, when a bloodsucker takes someone, it's because, you know, they want to make them one of them. Another bloodsucker.
Yeah, it's the family tie, I bet. You know, I took her name when I got married. Tig Dunson. And Chase said we was family because of Dunson. Marion recommended somebody. I needs to talk to Marion. There's a power he won't mess with, and there's that power is called Giovanni. Called Hecate.
Giovanni? You mean... She says... You mean the family who owns the Colonial Hotel?
Yep.
Right, of course they're bloodsuckers. Should have seen that one coming. You don't...
Yeah.
Don't run a place like that. They've been running it for decades now. Never so much as a single scandal. You never see them in public. Never see them during the day. So they're like a faction. A faction of yours.
Yeah, and if he had a blood... They go big for blood family. That's what Sam told me. And
So-
Elaine's blood family could be trying to grab her to try and keep them out of his business.
But if they're big on blood and blood ties, then if Dawkins took her, made her, you know, one of you, then wouldn't he then have a connection to the family?
He's desperate. Oh, they'd be pissed at him. But yeah, Muddy. I don't know where this goes, but it seems to me it might complicate things a little, long enough for him to do whatever the fuck he's doing. Yeah.
She frowns, bites her bottom lip, and it looks as if she's waging
I
a
wish
war.
Valerie was here. She'd know. She'd be able to put us together. Marion. I could take her to Marion. She'd keep us safe. For the nonce.
I can put a word, I can put an order out, says Lucky. I could try to buy you some time, make sure you can get her somewhere safe, but...
You come here in a car,
Dawkins. Right? She nods. She says, I've trailed their van, followed it here. My car's parked... Look, I stopped about a paddock's length away, covered the rest on foot, but...
The ute will be watched, but the car won't, and I can't. I'm a beast now, I can't go out in public with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a talk with Elaine and Wallace, and I need you to take them to the Continental and get them sanctuary. Ask for Marion Giovanni, ask for Chase Giovanni. You think you can get there without trouble? I will go and drive him off. And you'll have watchers, I'll drive him off.
Are you sure? This Marion and this Chase, are you sure if Elaine is a bargaining chip in this whole mess, is it really safe? What's to stop them from turning her themselves?
That's why I need to go have a talk with her now. Because they damn well might. Bringing family home now I think about it. Yeah, they might.
She bites her bottom lip and shakes her head, winning the war that's waging inside her. I never, ever thought in all my years as a hunter that I'd ever be suggesting such a thing, she says, but why don't you turn her yourself, here and now? Take her off the board.
It's a question she's gonna have to answer to me. You can come with me if you want after you take care of business.
A few more things I want to ask this this cum stain here. I figure you need
But here's
time
the
with
thing.
your family.
It's gonna be her choice, right? One of them. I ain't try. She's gotta choose. She's gonna choose.
It's only fair.
She
Remember
chooses.
what I said. Remember what I said 21 years ago, Tig. Remember that night? That night in my bar at Sip Sip Hooray. Just 'cause you're a monster don't mean you have to act like one. Not every bloodsucker is evil. That thing being a bloodsucker, yeah, it's a curse, right? But sometimes you can make good things come out of it, right? Sometimes it's the lesser evil out of all the things you're dealing with. Sometimes it's the lesser evil.
Silver fucking linings all the way down.
She solemnly nods
And Tig turns.
makes his way back towards the lounge room where Wallace and Elaine are still sitting. They look up at you as you enter, their faces pale,
The eyes of the beast
expressionless.
are off.
Elaine's mouth sort of drops open at the sight of you, at the sight of the bull-like horns, the chitinous, scaly skin.
Tig puts up his hand and turns his face. Sorry.
You did it for us, says Elaine, nodding, trying to assure herself that everything's okay. You did it for us, and we both know, we both understand that the world you live in, sometimes eggs are gotta be broken, right?
Tig reaches out and takes her hand.
I know why they were coming for me, she says.
Done, sir.
She nods. My name, Duncern. Like that lady you've been running around with at night, Marion Duncern.
Yeah. Found out who it was. He's desperate. Once, I think, I'm not good at this, but I think he wants a bargaining chip with the Hecata. And like I told you, the Hecata are big on blood ties, and Duncern's blood of their blood.
And he wanted to take me off
Lucky
the board.
thinks he wanted to turn you.
She shrugs and she says it makes sense. If my connection to the Hecata is so important, then, well, if I was Mr. Dawkins, I'd probably try to preempt anything going on there and make that person mine. Then the Hecata have to deal with me. They gotta, because I got one of their own who's got my blood now. Oh,
He
God,
glances over at
she
Wallace.
says, realizing the implications of what she's just laid out.
Elaine,
I don't want to go to the Hikata Tig, she says, screwing up her face. A tear running down her cheek. I don't... The Hikata want me just because he won't have me. And if that's all they want me for...
They'll turn you too, Lucky thinks. If we takes you there for safety, they'll turn you too.
Wouldn't be surprised if it's been planned for a while. But yeah, it's what I'd do. I imagine they never made me one of theirs. Never made me one of theirs, but they kept me within arm's length. You never know. Just
smooth talk of that, Chase. He told me you were off the board, but you weren't really. You weren't, were you? Otherwise Dawkins would, were you? There's another option, Elaine.
She looks into your eyes and it looks like...
There's another option if you want it, but only if you want it.
Looks like you're on the same wavelength. You've been married a very long time and your lives have been in sync for decades now, and on this tonight, on this thing, the same thing has occurred to her as well as you. She grabs your hand, clasps it in her own, looks into your eyes, and she says, if you turned me, then no one would have me. Mr. Dawkins wouldn't be sending people out to get me anymore. And Chase would have lost a bargaining chip. And furthermore, you and your anarchs, well, there'd be an alliance of sorts with the Hikata, wouldn't there? Like when they'd marry off daughters in the old times and make alliances between families, right?
It would, but Elaine, none of that's important. Elaine, what's important is, do you want it?
I figure they came for me today. They put me and Wallace under threat, and it was only because of the plans you'd made, the precautions you'd taken, that we got out of it alive. And even then, that bloke was a hair's breadth away from putting one of them arrows through me back, and Wallace only happened to get away because it was the odd moment where he didn't have his headphones on because he couldn't log into his bloody game, right? So he heard him coming, leaped through the window, ran to safety, but now they knew they were stepping into the den of at least one monster, right? But maybe they'd have thought twice if it were a den of two.
Pig squeezes her hand, then looks to Wallace. Wallace, go to your room and shut the door, will you?
Knowing the meaning carried behind your words, he just nods. And as he stands, he takes Elaine's other hand, clasps it, and just stares into her face for a moment, quiet. And then he nods. I think you should do it, Mum. I think it's about time. We've always understood, haven't we? It's always been on the table. It was only a matter of time. He looks at you. Make sure it's not painful, Dad. As quick and easy as possible.
No, you tell me how to suck eggs.
And then he steps out of the room before you finish making his way down the hallway. You hear the sound of his door being pulled shut. And then, a few seconds later, the sounds of his games begin to pump out of the bedroom, turned up as loud as he can muster, as if to block out the sounds of what's going to happen.
Tig looks to Elaine. Bedroom.
She nods, and her hand still clasped in yours. Make your way down the hallway, down to the bedroom. The same bed where you were blissfully sleeping until awoken this afternoon. The bedclothes still lying in a heap on the floor.
Tig shuts the door and locks it. And he holds his wife. And he sighs. You're sure it is? You sure you want this?
She's silent, not saying anything. For a moment, she just seems to stare into space. Only a few seconds pass, but it feels like so much longer, and you can tell in her head that she's replaying everything over and over, going through the options, analysing everything that's happened as if it's just another episode of Home and Away, whether Alf should sell the surf club or whether he should give it another honest go, get some of those high school kids, give them a worthy job and make an honest go of it. And finally, she nods. Yeah. If I'm gonna become a vampire, then I won't have it any other way. My skin crawls and I think of this Dawkins, and I don't want to be a bargaining chip for these Hecata just because of who happened to be me cousin or uncle or whatever you.
Alright. Tig goes over to the ancient cassette player. Ancient stereo deck. Finds a battered Journey cassette, slides it in, and it plays. And the wheel in the sky keeps on turning. Don't know where I'll be tomorrow.
Don't stop believing.
No, it's not. Don't stop believing. It's wheel in the sky.
Wheel in the sky.
Keeps on turning.
Keeps on turning.
Because despite everything, the days come he knew it would. Things have to change. And so he sits on the bed. And as tenderly as he can, he kills his wife.
And brings her back.
Yep. And her blood is the most delicious he ever tasted, but about as much as going out of his eyes as is coming in.
And a new monster is born tonight.
Yep.
And we'll leave it there.